What happened here is a perfect example of how fast information can turn into noise. A real Supreme Court decision was taken, stretched, mashed together with future cases, and then launched across the internet as instant breaking news. And if you act on that version instead of the real one, you could accidentally put yourself on the wrong side of New York law without even realizing it. Before we get into the details, ask yourself something honestly. Are you actually keeping up with real legal upgrades, or are you relying on headlines and short clips to make serious decisions? Because what you're about to hear isn't designed to scare you. It's designed to keep you from making a mistake that can't be undone with an apology. The story people are repeating sounds dramatic. An 8-1 Supreme Court decision. Massive gun law changes. New York affected immediately. It's the kind of claim that spreads fast because it feels urgent. But urgency doesn't always mean accuracy. What actually happened is more complicated, more important, and far less instant than social media wants you to believe. The court did issue an 8-1 ruling, but it wasn't about New York permits, and it didn't flip carry rules overnight. The danger isn't the decision itself. The danger is misunderstanding what it does and does not mean. The vote everyone keeps referencing came from a case involving a federal restriction tied to domestic violence court orders. In that case, the court examined whether the government could temporarily restrict firearm possession after a judge determines someone poses a real threat to another person. That's a very specific situation. It's not a general carry case. It's not about licensing systems, and it's definitely not a direct rewrite of New York's laws. But it still matters, because it shows how the court is thinking right now. And understanding that mindset matters far more than chasing headlines. What makes this moment confusing is timing. While that decision was released, the Supreme Court is also preparing to hear other major firearm-related cases in the next term. Some of those cases directly involve questions about where people are allowed to carry once they have a license. That's where New York comes into play, since earlier landmark decisions changed how permits work. New York's biggest legal battles haven't been about whether people can carry at all. They've been about where carrying is allowed and where it suddenly becomes a crime. That distinction trips people up. A lot of folks assume once they have a permit, they're covered. But that's not how strict states operate. In places like New York, location rules are often the biggest legal risk, not the firearm itself. You can follow every rule about ownership and still end up charged, simply because you stepped into the wrong place while carrying. Imagine a normal day. You're licensed. You're not looking for trouble. You stop at a small cafe, a grocery store, or a neighborhood shop. It's privately owned, but open to the public. There's no sign on the door, no warning, no checkpoint. You walk in assuming everything is fine. In some states, that assumption is correct. In others, it's not. The difference comes down to how the law treats private property by default. Some states say carry is allowed unless the owner posts a sign or tells you otherwise. Other states flip that rule and say carry is prohibited unless permission is given. Those two approaches lead to completely opposite outcomes for the same behavior. That exact issue is one of the major questions the Supreme Court is expected to address in upcoming cases. And if the court sets a clear national standard, states that rely on broad default bans may be forced to adjust. That's why 2026 keeps coming up. Not because the law already changed, but because decisions made then could reshape how these rules are enforced across the country. Here's where people get it wrong. They hear that the court is taking a case and assume the result already happened. That misunderstanding creates what can only be described as a danger zone when cases are pending. Social media fills the gap with speculation. Some creators declare victory, others predict disaster. Very few take the time to explain that nothing has changed yet. That gap between rumor and reality is where good people get into serious trouble. The court doesn't work on internet timelines. A case being accepted doesn't mean the law is rewritten. Arguments come later, decisions come later still, and even after a ruling, there's often a period where lower courts, agencies, and law enforcement adjust how things actually work on the ground. Acting early, based on hype, is how people become test cases instead of protected citizens. That's why even weeks where nothing officially changes still matter. Confusion alone can be dangerous. If you rely on a viral clip to decide where you carry, you can walk into a restricted area without knowing it. Enforcement priorities can also shift quietly, especially during high-profile news cycles, and travel adds another layer of risk. New York is one of the states where visitors regularly assume their home state rules apply, only to find out too late that they don't. Picture someone driving in from another state. They're fully legal at home. Their permit is valid there. They're used to certain signage rules, certain parking lot rules, certain public building rules. They cross into New York thinking it's close enough. That assumption is where everything goes wrong. Intent doesn't erase violations. Explaining yourself doesn't undo charges. And by the time you realize the rules are different, the damage may already be done. There are a few mistakes that come up again and again. One of the biggest is believing a carry license is a blanket shield. It isn't, especially in strict jurisdictions. The license only opens the door to another set of rules. Another mistake is assuming silence equals permission. No sign doesn't always mean yes, until higher courts draw clearer lines. Relying on assumptions is gambling with serious consequences. Another dangerous belief is thinking politeness alone will save you. While being respectful is always the right move, it doesn't override statutes. Officers enforce the law as written, and prosecutors decide what to pursue. You don't control either of those factors. The best outcome is avoiding the situation entirely, not hoping for discretion after the fact. There's also widespread confusion about how Supreme Court decisions actually work. The court doesn't pass laws. It interprets the Constitution and rules on specific cases. A decision can invalidate a law or force changes, but that process isn't always instant, and it's never as simple as a headline suggests. When creators blur that line, people assume daily rules changed overnight, and that's how otherwise law-abiding individuals end up facing charges they never expected. Looking ahead, 2026 still matters, not because everything becomes legal or illegal all at once, but because the court appears ready to clarify limits. States responded to earlier rulings by pushing boundaries, expanding sensitive place lists, creating default bans on private property, designing systems that technically allow carry while making it legally risky. Courts across the country have been split on how far those tactics can go. When the Supreme Court draws a clearer boundary, it will ripple downward fast. That doesn't automatically mean things get easier everywhere. Some rulings may expand where carry is protected. Others may uphold certain restrictions. Some may introduce new tests that take time to apply consistently. The smart approach isn't celebration or panic. It's preparation. Right now, the safest move is simple. Don't base your decisions on thumbnails or viral claims. Verify information through official state guidance and current court orders. Treat private property carefully. If signage is posted, respect it. If it isn't, don't assume you're safe. Weigh the consequences before stepping inside. Build your own mental no-go list. Avoid obvious sensitive areas. Keep your paperwork current and clean, and think through interactions with law enforcement before they ever happen. Most problems don't come from malicious intent. They come from uncertainty, hesitation, and bad assumptions under pressure. One mindset shift matters more than anything else. Carrying isn't about proving a point. Courts don't care about internet debates. Prosecutors don't care about what a comment section agreed on. Carrying is about personal safety, not ego. Acting like every decision could be reviewed later forces you to move more carefully in the present. When the next major ruling finally drops, the pattern will repeat. Loud headlines first, rushed videos next, reality last. The people who rush into wave 1 and wave 2 are the ones who pay the price. The people who wait for actual guidance are the ones who stay out of trouble. The 8-to-1 decision people keep mentioning was real, but its meaning has been distorted. It didn't instantly rewrite New York law. What it did was signal how. The court is shaping its framework. The real changes, if and when they come, will arrive through specific rulings that take time to land. Staying safe means staying grounded in verified information, not momentum. Laws evolve. Courts refine standards, and your actions today still matter under today's rules. Understanding that difference is what keeps a confusing legal moment from becoming a life-altering mistake.